Hi guys, and welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show. We help Muslims and non-Muslims alike to understand and handle Islam in the 21st century. We consider ourselves to be decent human beings, so we condemn categorically any abuse, oppression, misogyny, slavery, violence, anything like that. We do embrace, however, free speech and also criticism, even if it is directed at us, if it is factual and constructive criticism. We focus on Islam exclusively. So if you're curious about anything Islam, you've come to the right place. Now, we don't attack, which is aggressive, destructive, and antagonistic, neither Islam nor Muslims. We ask questions and show facts. We refute false claims and present the reality of Islam, which is political Islam. We inspect, investigate, research, analyze, and then report and critique on Islam, the ideology, not the people. Now, the live stream goes to YouTube and Facebook, and there are three ways that you can participate in this. Either you join us in the live written chat, you can join the panel during the live show, or later on watch and comment the archive. And anyone can join to comment, critique, contribute, or question. This is not a Dawa channel with censorship. Don't go to Patreon, don't go to PayPal. Everything here is free. The way we work is usually we have some news, some Krazy Komments, a segment where we go and read the Quran, and then a discussion on the theme of the month, followed by integrating the live chat, ending with a Hadith of the week. If this is not enough Islam for you, there's still the Discord channel where you can discuss with us without anything being recorded. See you later and enjoy the Gin and Tonic Show. Hello everybody, welcome to another Friday. Welcome to what is an extremely hot Friday here, this 18th June of 2021. With me today is the valued and also knowledgeable Mr. Speakers. Welcome, Rob. How are you doing?
Good evening. Stops. I'm well, sir. It's also rather warm on my side over here. And good evening to the viewers. And if you're watching it afterwards, good day. And thanks for watching the video later.
Indeed. I hope that I don't know how many people we're going to have if it really is warm, like everywhere. No, actually, no, it was the coldest or something for the last, 30 or 50 years or something in Sydney. So that was quite a surprise. So it is getting quite extreme. Okay, welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show. What we're going to do today is we're going to go through much of the regular schedule, and then what we're going to do is watch a video and comment on this because it is with the Sheikh in the States, Mr. Farooq, and we're going to see what he has to say in this video. Now, I myself, I've only watched the first couple of seconds when I switched off, and then I went to the end to see how it ends. So these are the only pieces that I've actually watched. The rest is sort of, I skimmed over it, but I didn't really pay any attention to it because I like watching things for the first time so that I can give my initial reaction. All right, shall we hit it? The first thing that I normally do is I go and show people the inspiration of Islam, which today is whenever you're alone, remind yourself that Allah has sent everybody away, so that it's only you and Him. Okay, so if you're alone, it's not because you're alone, because Allah has sent everyone away. So I'm alone here at the moment, so that means Allah has sent everyone away. I don't know how many people He sent away right now, but that's the way. Why would it be only him and me? This sounds like a bit of a pervert, really. I mean, if it's like on a first date or something, you should have a chaperone there, shouldn't you?
Yeah, I'm not sure how he's sending people away. If you're deciding, right, I heard a video today again with Mansour desperately trying to reconcile free will with determinism. And what Mansour now tries to say, just happened to see it recently because I'm not seeing that much online at the moment. Oh, he goes, we've got limited free will. I'm like, okay, that is just gibberish. Either you have free will or you have limited will. You don't have limited free will. But they're so desperate to try and reconcile this, they just make stuff up, even if it's complete gibberish. That's how Mansour for you, right? And then he goes to great pains to try and explain this, and it's like you're just listening to somebody babbling some incoherent nonsense, and then And again, the chat's going, wow, that's amazing. And you're going, it really is the case that you could babble complete incoherent. And if you just said Islam is good, or you throw in the word Islam, or you throw in Muhammad, or you throw in something that sounds like it relates to Islam, the people go, wow, that's amazing. You ask them, what's amazing? Well, I don't know. It's just amazing. It's just laughable, really. But I spend a bit more time on Discord at the moment, some free time, because I'm looking for better sort of conversations, and tends to be at the moment more with the Christians. Occasionally a Muslim will come in there, but I just haven't found anywhere where there's any sort of high level Muslim interlocutors. So it is what it is.
Yeah. But are Christians more sophisticated, or is it because what I found is it's nearly the same level? As soon as they're fundamentalists, and that's it. End of story.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, but I've realized that you are much better at this, because I'm more strident, and I'm not so good at quick thinking. I realized like 10 seconds later, hang on, this situation is this and this, but then it's too late. So I don't know if you can train being quicker, looking at the big picture. I don't know if you can.
I definitely think it's like practice. You just get better at it with time. If you look back at my early videos in Speaker's Corner, I wasn't lost for words, but I certainly didn't, I've learned a lot and still continue to do so now. What do people say? How might I respond? And I listen to other smart people. I think that's it. I've listened to many of the things you've said. I've listened to many of the things that other people have said. And, it doesn't all go in, but I take in the bits that I can. And, sometimes that'll come back to me in the moment. Sometimes I go, afterwards I said, maybe I could have thought of that or said something else. But I don't think there's any substitute for having the conversations. And so, but I do think it's a case of doing it. It's like practicing going to the gym. And I think, maybe you don't do it as much now, although you were saying you were doing it elsewhere on other channels and so forth, but maybe it's not live, and it's more the practice of the live conversation. So if you've got time, Discord is a place. Our server isn't so busy, but I can let people know where else they can hang out, where I sometimes hang out as well. So there we go.
Well, I've got 6 or 7 Muslim servers lined up where I can go. The thing is that normally what happens is that it gets abrasive, and then I'm checked out relatively quickly. So I need to tone it down a bit and see if I can prolong my stay by just being more amicable, which is
I think that's the thing. All of us get
at.
there after a while. All of us, none of us have got infinite patience, and I guess that's the thing. I also do step in. I'll let people speak because I do want to hear their point. But once I've got the point and I know that I could articulate it back to them, then I will tend to jump in, because most people speak too much. They just haven't got the art of being clear and concise. It's more opaque and long-winded, almost everybody that I hear. And so that's why I will let them go, and then I'll jump in normally. But it's a case of like finding that balance, I think.
Yeah, but I find that especially Muslims are like intent on explaining. So they think that the longer they speak, the more they're saying. Yeah, I find it's the opposite. And that is why when I say to them, no, actually, it's not the ribs, it's the something, and then they don't understand because it was too quick, because I haven't explained it to them in great detail, looking at 5 different perspectives, where I tend to go, straight for the essence, the core, which is basically what I'm doing with my Quran reading. Going for the very center of the message, and not going around and explaining it 5 different times. But some people, I think, actually expect this.
But I've also said to you, right, you and I have had many conversations. I've said, you've got so much in your head, and you'll say, this is bollocks, or this, and this, right? And to the mostly untrained Muslims, they're going to hear it as a claim, and then they're going to ask you to back that up. And if you don't have something ready, or if you can't back it up either immediately with an argument, then it's not going to reflect so well. So I'm like, okay, if you're going to say X, know where you can quickly find it, or whatever the case is, or couch it a bit more that it's like, hey, I think it's this, and I can find that information if you want. What's your response if it were the case, or whatever? But it's all in your head, and it's not always easy for you then, after you've made the claim, to then run the argument, unless you've got it all like perfectly set out in your head, and maybe you have for some of those things. That's why I'll look up stuff or say it if I can. And if I know that I can, back it up, then I'll go, okay, that's bollocks and da-da-da. But I'll be a bit cautious about saying bollocks, and then I haven't got something straight away ready to deal with that.
Yeah, that's good advice. The thing is that you're right, because I've got so many bits and pieces that I have read, that I have, researched up at some stage, that the other day I had this. I couldn't think of the name Emirates Scott, and I said, "Look, the stories that you hear about Spain, that's bollocks." And this is exactly the situation. And somebody said, yeah, but do you have any historian who says that, who can back you up? And I said, yeah, sure, there's many. Like there's... I was sitting there and I couldn't bloody well think of the name. And then I thought, you're such an idiot. Of course you have all these bits and pieces of information. And I probably have 12 or 13. But they're not that detailed in my brain, like... ready to be picked up right here and now as a substantiation of my point. It's just that I know that I am right because I've done the research. But now to bring exactly your point, to bring this across now, to go and convince somebody else, that is the problem. And there somebody will say, well, he's talking out of his arse because he's making these claims, but he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Yep, yeah. Absolutely.
And by the way, Why So Religious was on, he just posted a link there. So when you guys have done with the show, there's a link there. But if you ever go on again, why? So ask us, Farooq, if he wants to come and speak to us here, or indeed do it on your channel or wherever. But it'd be interesting to have him come somewhere. We're going to critique a video of his today, but on a channel where, it's not a safe space where, other people can do it, and maybe, the two of us or one-to-one or whatever it might be. But those sort of channels are geared, obviously, to be 5-on-1, and for them all to be able to help each other out, interrupt incessantly, and make it as difficult for the single interlocutor as possible. So,
well, he said we're welcome, and he'd love to talk to us, but it would have to be in San Diego. What he did with what's his name, David Wood, and Sam Shamoun. So he did the same thing with them. Now, they have the kind of financial backing that they can get into a plane and just fly to San Diego to go and chat to the guy and fly back. Now, for me, this is silly. To fly 10,000 kilometers just to tell the guy he's wrong and then to fly back again. But this is what he says. I mean, he's so full of it that he says, yeah.
But I mean, he's online, right? There's nothing wrong with him doing it online. We're all online now. He knows how to get online. He's obviously on the Muslim channels.
Yeah, on the Muslim, yes, but he doesn't want to talk to anybody unless it's in person.
Yeah, but he spoke to Why So Religious, right? That video there, Why So, he's speaking to him along with these other guys. So, I mean, it's not the case that he isn't doing it. And he's been on some of their other live streams, right? And I think we've even critiqued it once, if I remember correctly.
Yes, correct. I thought you were talking one-on-one with him.
No. I mean, just do it online. You could do it one-on-one online. Doesn't matter, wherever it is.
Well, because I asked him one-on-one, and he said no. Only when we are in San Diego.
Yeah, I think that's disingenuous, right? He's doing it here, like with his safe space. And I think, if you're such a great Muslim, then step out. There's nothing to be afraid of. You can step out of your safe space with your four other Muslim buddies there and have that conversation. After all, whenever somebody goes in against him, for example, or goes in there, he often gets to talk, and then he kind of dominates it there. And obviously, Darren and the other people there can jump in, whatever the case is. So. Yeah, he can step out of it, right? I always go to the other channels. I mean, I don't go to atheist channels. Why would I do that, right? So I'm going somewhere else. Most of us do. Yeah. So why don't these guys do that?
No, they're too scared. I mean, I'm doing this on the German side now. Do you think that these guys will come and contact me and say, well, why don't you come in and we'll spend 15 minutes with you? Not a chance. They're doing everything to block me. I think I have 4 accounts now. I've lost because as soon as they realize there's somebody there who knows something about Islam and asks questions which are a little bit more probing, they kick you. It's the same thing as the guy said, well, because one of the guys has his own server, and I lasted 15 minutes. As soon as you start probing, poof, you're out. And the guy said, yeah, I've used 5 accounts trying to talk to them, and after 10 minutes I'm out. Because they're so afraid, they're so frightened, they're such cowards, they're so shit scared of being caught out or something. So the only thing they have is either violence or censorship. Now they can't do violence over the internet, so the only thing they have is censorship. So there you go. Okay, let's start with the news. Now I've got 2 items. Well, actually 1.5, because this is something. This is a follow-up because, as we know, Hatun was arrested in Speaker's Corner. I see that she's keeping a very low profile now, trying to speak one-on-one to people. It's so frustrating for her to do that, because you can see that the people who are not like who was she talking to? Was it Mansour or something? They really have no clue what they're talking about. And she was so frustrated that she has to explain everything 5 different times, because the guy couldn't understand what the hell she's talking about, if she's talking about the Quran or the Hadith or something. And he thought she's just a beginner. She doesn't even know what Hadiths are. So he was starting to explain to Hatun what Hadiths are, So it's quite silly. Anyway, so this is from the mayor. This is from last year when Hatun was escorted out of Speaker's Corner. And this is how high level this is now starting to be, where the discussion between Muslims and non-Muslims is getting to the stage where even the mayor of London is getting involved in this, because it is so, publicly noticeable. I don't know what to call it. That it's actually, I think it's embarrassing for London. I think it's embarrassing for Speaker's Corner. I think it's embarrassing for everybody there that people are able to be escorted out, even under the premise that they are being protected. It must be possible to protect somebody there. If they have 20 people there to arrest Hatun, they must be able to put a ring of 20 people around her to protect her from those who are trying to grab her or hit her or kick her or spit on her or something like this. It must be possible. You can't tell me that the City of London is unable to go to Speaker's Corner and just enforce law and order there. You can't tell me that. And yet, this is exactly what they're saying. So they say, this is the mayor. Hatun was escorted out of the park for her own safety. After a large and hostile crowd had gathered around her, she was then moved away to prevent any disorder from occurring. She was moved away because the others were creating a disorder. So the victim is being removed, not the perpetrators. And then it says a subsequent decision was taken to clear the crowd from Speaker's Corner. No, they didn't. So I find this highly problematic, what is happening in Speaker's Corner at the moment.
Yeah, I think there's something else to be said here, of course. Contrary to the information received, there's no current bar on her attending, She's not accused of any crime. It's routine for them to review events at Speaker's Corner and consider if an individual has overstepped the mark of what is lawful and within the traditions of the historic location. Now, this is just like gibberish. Who decides what is lawful? There's nothing that she's done is unlawful, so she couldn't have overstepped that mark. And what is the traditions of this historic place, which is what? Freedom of speech, right? And here's just the nail in the coffin. If this was indeed the mayor, presumably this is Sadiq Khan, he holds freedom of speech as a principle that I hold dear. One of the best things about London is we protect the right of people's and ability to exercise it. However, as I'm sure you will, here comes the however, right? I hold this principle dear, but here's where I'm going to throw this principle under the bus. The police have to balance this right with managing behavior that could lead to public disorder. Well, they can manage it. They can eject the people who are likely to who are the cause of the disorder. And she's not the cause, it's the person who reacts. If she said what she said and nobody reacted or even listened to her or walked away or smiled or just sat down or just said, hey, I feel sorry for you, whatever response other than any sort of quote unquote disorder, there would be no disorder. She could stand on her head. She could bring whatever she wants to bring, whatever the case is. So it's these people who are deciding to be quote unquote disorderly. And so what they're doing here is not managing those people, but managing her. And if I was there in charge of that, I'd have the police officer ejecting these people and banning them. If they come back here with that sort of behavior where they're likely to cause that, they're banned from here. If they come back a second time, after that, they're banned for a year or whatever the case may be. And so this idea of public disorder it's almost, this would only be true if these people were robots and they couldn't do otherwise. But if in fact they can, which, let's be charitable, supposedly they can make some sort of a choice, even if it's not a free choice per se, but it's some sort of choice where they can, decide on something different, then there wouldn't be any violence. So he supports the rights to remove individuals in order to prevent the breach of that. You just got the wrong individuals. You and the police have got the wrong individuals. Why is this? Well, we can speculate on the reasons, mostly because there's just one of her and 20 of them. But great, I support your idea to remove individuals, just choose the right ones. You're getting it so profoundly wrong here that it's demonstrably obvious to anybody whose brain is operating.
And one thing I want to point out, which is really making the UK look bad, because it says here, Toon was informed by police, now this is legal information, that she could be liable to arrest should she return. Now, what kind of a law is that? Maybe you're going to be arrested, maybe not. What kind of a legal information is that? That's ridiculous. You can't do that. You cannot do that. It's either or. This is the law. You can't have something. Well, if you can go through a red light, maybe you will be fined or not. Come on, what is this? This is ridiculous.
This is where I'd love to be there. I'm saying to me, okay, so what is it that I could be? What is it, this thing that I could be? What's the law that I might be infringing? And what is it that I might be doing to infringe this law? What's the law and how am I overstepping it? Right? If they don't have something, and most police officers, unfortunately, are profoundly ignorant on the law. They just sort of quote general laws because they haven't studied this properly. And so they quote general things. But whoever this person is writing this, what could she be arrested for? Again, like you say, you've got to be very clear. Okay, you're overstepping X or Y. But because this is all a gray area, which allows them to behave in this way, they can use the statement could. Stops and I look at a lot of other videos where there's people going around, filming, police stations or whatever the case is. And especially in the UK, they are sometimes quick to just put hands on people and push them away. That is, what's the term? That's battery in this country. If you touch somebody else without their permission, that's battery. But they're just not held to account. So they feel like they can push people around. Anytime you...
Oops. We lost Rob. That was funny. It's like somebody pulled the plug mid-sentence. I've never seen that happen before. Maybe he had a power failure and everything broke down. Wow, that was strange. Okay, this is weird. This is so funny. I've never had that happen before. All right. He's back. It's so funny. What happened?
I pushed the button here. I've got a special device that does something here that's got shortcuts, and I touched it by mistake, and it kicked me out. So,
wow. That was
anyway,
so weird.
We could go on with this thing. I mean, imagine you have the mayor or the police here, right? We just expose their fallacious thinking so quickly. It'll be unbelievable, right?
It's hypocritical. Come on. You can't on the one hand say that, we have laws and we have rules and regulations and we have law enforcement officers doing exactly that. And then they just do what they want. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Well, we don't know. It's up to them. That's not the way it works.
Most epic, that may well be the case. Unfortunately, in this country, there's something called hate speech, which really should be taken off the books immediately if I had anything to say about it. We have laws in this country which prevent, anti-Muslim bigotry or anti-minority bigotry, whatever the case is. But this sort of hate speech is just vacuous nonsense that people can invoke when their feelings are hurt. Here's the statement that I've always kept in my head. Don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Now, that statement might sound trite and quick and whatever, but if you think about it, and it's not my statement originally, I wish it was, it's a profound statement. And what people that want to have this sort of law, they want it to be easier. Hey, I don't want my feelings hurt. Well, you can choose not to have hurt feelings. Maybe it takes some practice for you, but it's entirely possible. With a little practice, you become more bulletproof against it. Stops and I have had to do it. Many other people, maybe we're not perfect, but we're certainly a lot better than we were in the past. And I want people to say, because then I know what's going on in their brain. Otherwise, it's just in there, they smile, and behind the scenes, they say things, what they really think. So let them say it out loud. Now we know what people think, and we can deal with them appropriately in whatever way that is, right? Most of the time, that would be responding back with something, unless there's a call to violence or something like that. So in answer to your question, yes, it's entirely possible that could happen in this country, which is a very sad state of affairs, and it could even happen in Speaker's Quarter potentially. And that would really just finish Speaker's Corner as any sort of thing. But the more this happens, the more likely it swings in that direction.
Oh, that's terrible, really. Okay. No, I don't even want to think about it because this is so terrible. Because for me, this is the most important thing. And I've learned to grow a thicker skin. Because I used to be up in arms if somebody, said something and I decided to get insulted over this. And I now totally ignore this. If, people can tell me anything they want to my face about anything about my person, and it will just, it's water off a duck's back. It just doesn't register. So, okay. Next item is that Hajj is upon us in exactly 1 month. And it's from the 17th to the 22nd of July. And it's going to be a little bit better than last year. But since Allah still hasn't managed to control COVID-19, so a tiny little virus is really causing havoc amongst the gods, because they are sitting there like totally impotent, totally unable to do anything. So a tiny virus can put down this huge, mighty, all-powerful God. Or maybe he wants it. Maybe he created it to, to torture people a bit, to test them a bit more, to see how they will go and handle all the loss and the suffering and the... Okay, forget about it. Anyway, so registration this year will be limited to 60,000 KSA, in other words, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia citizens and residents. No outside people. So all these Bangladeshis, Pakistanis, Indonesians, Indians, all these countries where you have the majority of Muslims cannot go on Hajj. Now, remember, this is one of the 5 pillars. So this is one of the 5 most important things for a Muslim to do, to go and run around the Blackstone, and they're not allowed to do that. Now, there's good news as well, because for the first time, women, 50% of the Muslim population, can register and go there without a male guardian. This is a revolution, what is happening, that women are finally allowed to go and worship in a similar fashion as the men. Now, the funny thing is, it says in the rule book that women are not allowed to wear the hijab. They're not allowed to cover themselves. They should wear the same attire as the men so that everybody is equal. But for the last 100 years, people have started turning a blind eye to the fact that more and more women are uncomfortable with this, because there have been so many gropings and whatever, that they are now running around in full burqa, niqab or something. And they're not. Then they shouldn't do that. And it shows you how hypocritical this whole system is. Because it says that if you are in the state of ihram, they call it, which is the holy state, and you're not supposed to. But human beings go and modify the things as they see fit. And it's not the God who decides what you're going to wear, but it's the human being that does it. So don't give me all this nonsense about it's a religious thing, what I need to wear, and it's to please Allah. Well, if you want to please Allah, then you don't wear it when you're going on Hajj, but women do. So then when it suits them, suddenly it's up to them and no longer up to their God. So there you go.
Yeah. Wow, it's 8:30 already. We've hardly got started, isn't it? That first bit of news got us going a little bit there.
Yeah, but it's incredibly important, I think, because if we don't, we need to push back on this, really, because really, if we don't do this, we're going to lose it. The way that this Speaker's Corner has been handed to Muslims, it's in my eyes, is incredible. It's just mind-boggling. It's Okay, let's take a look at some of the comments. The problem is that Mustafa is not here, so some of these are his. So I'm not 100% sure we're going to be able to do justice here, because he's very good at reading them and he knows the context. So what I'm going to do is just these. He came up with 25 reasons I don't believe in Islam. And these 25 reasons he doesn't believe in Islam got him kicked off TikTok, because TikTok doesn't like this kind of thing, because the Muslims are just as combative as they are everywhere else. So he got kicked for saying something that is absolutely true, because you can see the first one, it is homophobic, it does promote slavery, and so on and so forth. So, but still, he got kicked. So a comment that was sent to him, bro, Islamophobia. Okay, he doesn't even know what Islamophobia is, but it's Islamophobia at its finest. As a Christian and a member of the LGBTQ, please leave people alone. So, but by telling somebody, I don't believe in Islam and here's why, somebody is complaining that you should not do that. You should leave people alone, just because he doesn't like that somebody is telling them the truth.
That's a curious thing, isn't it, right? So obviously LGBTQ are like minority and they feel like they are victimized and so forth. And they're looking for allies. The problem is that they think that, Islam is an ally of theirs because, hey, look at these people, quote unquote, being Islamophobia. I.e., look at this, right? They're a minority as well. So we'll all hold hands and, try and be together, stronger together. What they don't realize, of course, is that Islam will just steamroll them. If they think that it's bad now, and hopefully it's getting better, but if they think it's bad now, don't let somebody like that go to an Islamic country and say these sort of things or come out with that. Then you'll wish for these countries where you thought it was bad. There is no grass on the other side of the fence. It's just a cliff after, where you're going to fall straight down. There's no soft landing.
And the next one is so great. White person moment. What does it have to do with the white person moment if somebody says this ideology is homophobic?
Oh well, that's just the flavor of the current thing. Hey, if there's any critique, then it must be some bad white person. Of course, Mustafa isn't even white to begin with. But don't let a little thing like that stop you, right? Don't let facts get in the way, because hey, if I have a narrative and I want to say it, I'll say it regardless of facts, and it's sad.
And this is intelligence squared. Tell me you haven't read the Quran without telling me you haven't read the Quran.
Yeah, I have no clue what that's supposed to mean. Sounds incoherent to me.
This is the old thing. People think that if you criticize Islam, you haven't read the Quran. This is what I hear again and again and again. Bro, why don't you read the Quran? And I tell them, yeah, but hang on. This is the Quran that I am quoting. No. You haven't read the Quran. You got this from Google, or you got this from Fox News or something. You don't know what the Quran says. I said, this is the Quran. No, you're getting it wrong. You need to read the Quran. So if you're telling them there's something wrong in the Quran, the more you read it, the better it should get. So.
Yeah, it can't be my Quran because I've been told that it's all perfect. I haven't read it or understood it myself, but that's what my imams and sheikhs tell me. So if you come along and saying something else, well, who are you? I've got these scholars. So I haven't read it, but I take it on faith from these other people that are telling me. So you must be wrong. Well, why don't you try and read it yourself? Well, hang on a moment. Why would I do that? I'm a Muslim. I can get other people to tell me. That's how I've been taught to not think, to listen to somebody else who's quote unquote got the knowledge. They all end up in the same place. They have to interpret it.
That's the problem. Somebody else will tell you what the Quran says and you can be a Muslim. Read it yourself and you'll be an atheist.
There you go.
So there you go. Anyway, and by the way, people have asked me, why do you always laugh? This is my way of handling this. Because I used to shout and rant and rave and go crazy. I don't do that anymore because now it's like I react with humor. And that is the way that I am managing to read these things without going through the roof. Because this is so terrible. It is so devastating to have human beings who are on the same planet as me, who are saying these things. And then I've decided, no, it's not worth getting angry over. Let me rather laugh at this. Because laughing, it's a different way of tackling a problem. Of course I can shout, and it's another way of anger management. But my way of doing it, I've decided, is rather laughing about it. And if you don't like me laughing about something, if you rather want to have me shouting or screaming, well, tough luck. If you have nothing to do with Islam, then why is your bio ex-Muslim? If you left, you left. You don't need to talk about it. Yeah, it's a typical thing, eh? Don't talk about it. Just leave quietly. When you're a Muslim, go and shout about it. But if you
Yeah.
leave, keep quiet.
Yeah, that's it, right? We can talk about it, but when you leave, hey, why are you still talking about it? Well, because it has consequences in the real world. If people kept it to themselves in their own house, we wouldn't worry. If they came out and they acted like secularists out in the public sphere and Muslims at home, for example, then we wouldn't be talking about it. Then
Yeah.
we have Speaker's Corner, wouldn't have people there. We'd be talking about something else, the flat earth, climate change, whatever it might be, and we wouldn't be talking about Islam in particular.
That's what people don't understand. I try and tell them that a theist is somebody who believes gods exist, or his favorite god, or one minimum god exists. Okay, that's the definition of a theist. The opposite, the atheist, is somebody who does not. And that's it. So if I do not believe this, I am reacting to what the theist is saying. If there are no theists, obviously, logically, there can be no atheists. So this is what Rob is just saying. If people would keep quiet about it, there would be no atheists because we wouldn't have anything to react to. And we would have a normal state of affairs where people just live their lives and that's it. But unfortunately, people can't keep their mouths shut when they believe in gods. You have no clue what Islam even is. Do your research and all those points will be proven wrong. There you go. That's it.
Well,
Just
that's
do your
exactly the
research.
mindset. Yeah. You must be wrong because I've heard it's the case and I believe that it's true, so you must be wrong. I can't do it myself, but somebody out there knows about it, so you must be wrong. This is how many of them are brought up to believe, right? That this is infallible and everybody else is wrong. But when you're asked, how do you substantiate it? Well, I don't. Somebody's out there. I get sent links, right? When we used to do the inheritance era, they send me links to websites or to YouTube videos. I say,
Yeah.
and so
of
I
course.
stopped doing that after a very short amount of time. And I said, what does it say? Summarize its position.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
you got to go watch it. All that told me was they had no clue. They'd Googled something. Somebody had said something and they said, there's a link. I don't need to understand it or go look at it or try and understand it and come back to you. You go look at that. That'll answer your question. No. You come and understand it and you try to answer my question. Don't send me somewhere else. I've been to most of those places already.
Yeah, I also learned that not to do that because it's down a rabbit hole and you don't get anything at the end of the day. Every Muslim is allowed to have sex with his female slave. If he does not have female slave, it's a pity that he doesn't do this because I don't think I can do a Zakir Naik accent.
No, I don't need to.
Female slave and wife is not at home, then he must release his lust with sheep or goat. Dr. Zakir Naik. I used to have every Muslim is allowed to have sex with his female slave. No, I can't do it anymore. Okay. These are the 25 points. I don't know if we don't need to go through them. Okay, then we have Islam. No, isn't Islam fastest growing religion and more people convert to it than any other religion each year? It's amazing how this sticks. I think because they like it. It doesn't hold true. There's no fact to support it, and yet people just repeat it. Repeat a lie often enough, and people will believe it. Mr. Himmler himself said this.
Especially in echo chambers, right? When they hear one person say it, well, this person must be true, otherwise he wouldn't be saying it. And hey, he's a fellow Muslim. They don't lie. So I'll just repeat it. I won't go and check if that's the case. I'll just repeat what I've heard.
Yeah. Do you know that I'm still getting criticized for a video that I did where I showed that this Dr. Moore lied. And I am still today getting comments saying, who the fuck are you if there is a doctor who says that Islam is correct? Who are you to tell them that he is not correct? And I said, well, read his books. Watch the video where I lay it out step by step, one by one, in great detail, why and how he's lying. Yeah, but you don't know what you're talking about. And that's it. And then he just goes and dismisses me and says, well, I've heard it from somebody that he is true, that he is not lying, and therefore you don't count. So they will simply dismiss anything that doesn't suit them without any real reason. It's just that they don't want it, and therefore they will say, no, I don't like it, and therefore you need to shut up, and Moore is right. Same thing here. Islam is the fastest growing religion, and I don't care how many facts you bring to me and how much reality contradicts this. I don't care. I want to believe that Islam is the fastest growing religion, and Dr. Moore doesn't lie. And that's what I'm going to believe. Yes, that's good. This
Is he
is
still alive, or
embarrassing.
has he passed away?
No, the last I heard, he was still alive.
I wonder if he
He's
regrets it.
97 now. Sorry, I was hoping for a deathbed, sort of not conversion, but I don't know, a
Confession.
statement or well, I don't know if it's a confession. Would it be a confession? No, just a statement saying, "Look, listen, what I said there was written, and what the point is, his family is living very well because of that. So why would he jeopardize that? And why would he risk the life of his family knowing, and I'm sure they told him this, if you ever change your mind about this, your family will suffer, even if you are dead. And I think this is why people keep quiet, is to protect the family. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, sure, I blame him, but difficult. A fact is, whenever Islam comes under these sort of attacks, more and more people revert to Islam. Alhamdulillah. No, it's not really
Shall
true.
quick question for you, Stop. Shall we finish Mustafa's and then we keep the other ones for next week? Because I'm just conscious of the time and we've got a fair video to get through as well for people. So,
Okay.
but just a
The more
thought.
you spread lies, the more people convert to Islam. The next one is, who paid you to do this video? Your cousin from Israel. This is always the same thing, isn't it? And then we have the same thingamajig. Then we have, the more you spread lies, the more converted. It's funny, a lot to converted to Christianity, disrespecting other religions. It's almost like Christianity is teaching them hate. Good. I'm proud of that as a Muslim. Guys, I know you are fighting. This is his article. Good. I'm proud of that as a Muslim. So he thinks this is good. And 13 likes as well. Good on you for speaking up. Jesus will protect you always. And then the final one. Who paid you to do this video? Israel isn't the fastest, and the more people convert into Israel, that whenever comes out. Okay, so this is the second one. So I'll leave the last two for next week.
Yeah, the other two, the black ones, we'll keep. Actually, they're related to the video that's coming up, but we could always do.
Well, then let's quickly do them.
Okay.
Come on, this is just two of them. You want to read them?
Yeah, this is taken from the video that we're going to review a bit later on, and this has got Sheikh Farooq in it. This is the coolest sheikh ever, right? We'll see whatever cool means. This guy explains everything so clearly. Wow. The big mistake is that people think that Islam began at the time of the Prophet Muhammad, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The Islam was in the beginning, very Prophet followed the Islam and was Muslim, but they had different books. Okay, that's a bit of gobbledygook. You can be a Muslim, that's best. That could happen, mashallah. That was slick. Okay, so obviously these Muslims are just loving it. This sheikh is just the slickest, most crystal clear guy ever. We're going to have a look at that, right? We're not going to take these critically thinking posters as for sure. Even as a Muslim, this was educational. Oh, so it's educational as well. Great.
No, it's educative.
Educative, sorry. You see, I'm reading into it. I'm actually correcting it automatically. I don't know why I'm emotional after watching the dawah of this sheikh. Well, I would be too, probably, but I'd be emotional, but I like, banging my head against my forearm or something like that. MashaAllah, good efforts, bros. Keep it up. It will yield good results, inshallah. Allah Rabul Izad, is it? I'm terrible with pronunciations. Reward our beloved sheikh and protect him, amen. And bless him and grant Janahal, whatever, and all his family members and friends, amen. That brother is the polka suit standing there listening in very intently to the sheikh, and he's supposed to be engaging people and spreading the Quran. I can relate. The brother in the polka suit is just standing there listening. Okay, so this sheikh is just amazing. Everybody's hypnotized by him by the look of it. Allah has given the sheikh wisdom and eloquence in his speech, mashallah. Yes, I'm sure he'll be quick talking, but that, of course, as we know, that doesn't actually mean much. What we're looking for is substance, not just ramblings. Alhamdulillah. Best of luck and love from Bangladesh. Simple explanation, but mind-blowing. Extraordinary and exquisite. All right, we'll get on to it. So that's just to whet your appetite for what's coming. As we can see with these Muslims here, the sheikh is just, it's mind-blowing, it's educative, it's clear, concise, it's just incredible. Let's see if we are also feel the same way by the end.
I wonder whether my comment is still on there. because I actually made a comment, but I have no idea what I did. Shall we skip the Quran for today?
Yeah, we can do. Keep that for next week then, because it'll take us a while. I mean, if we finish it, which is doubtful, we could always come back to it, I guess.
Shit, and I did some homework.
No, but that's good. That means you don't have to do it for next week, right?
Yeah. Okay, then let us go to the video. Will you run it or me?
Yeah, I'll do it. No worries.
Brilliant.
Alrighty, so here we go. What happens after death? And Koran calls the police. Now, for people who are not aware, this idea of a Karen, I guess is how it's pronounced in the US. I think it originated there. I could be mistaken, but basically it's the idea of like a snowflake. So somebody who's quite emotional, who will just call the police at the drop of a hat. Somebody that can't doesn't have some fortitude, doesn't have a thicker skin. So it's a thin-skinned, sort of snowflakey type person. That's what this term Karen refers to. And it's typically with women, but it's even sort of crossed over the sexual divide, if you like, to incorporate basically anybody now, men and anything in between, that can be a Karen. So if you hear that or you come across a video, typically the video person or somebody is suggesting that a person is acting up like a child or thin-skinned or snowflakish or woke or whatever that sort of term is, right? So that's kind of it's certainly seen as a fairly derogatory term, I think.
Yeah, it's somebody who's insecure and just starts shouting at the drop of a dime.
Okay, so whoa, I didn't want to do that. What the hell is that? That's not what we want. That's not the right one. Here we go. So let's just make this into theater mode. There we go. And we'll just set it a little bit quicker. At 1.25 should still work quite well. And right, so we're going to start just about there. All right. Here we go. Do you want to make it full screen stops or are you good like that? It doesn't matter. I suppose people can see it already. Yeah.
I know it's a big ass question.
No, it's a pretty easy question. We get it all the time. So let me kind of break it down a little bit before that so that I can explain that, right?
Totally.
So you see, like a human being, we have a body.
Yeah.
But then you also have like what people nowadays say there's like a spark, right? So this is what we would consider your ruh, your soul, right? And you know how like some.
Okay, so my question is, why are you taking the mask off? Why did you have it on to begin with? You might as well just leave it off or put it on. But this whole soul, spirit thing, whenever I hear this, of course, alarm bells go off for me. First thing I'm going to ask is, what is this? How does this exactly work? And most often people will say something to try and make it analogous with consciousness, in which case we don't need the word spirit, or they'll claim it's some other mysterious thing. Well, okay, fine, but why should we care about this? You can appeal to any mystery out there for something that doesn't appear to be necessary. Now, if you could make an argument that it's necessary, great. But then you also have to explain how this quote unquote soul interacts. I call it the interaction problem. How does this interact with our brain, our physical being, our mind, whatever the case may be? Is this in control? Is it along for the ride? There's a lot of questions, but people like to throw out the word soul or spirit as if this is somehow, quote unquote, mystical or spiritual, whatever that might mean, right? But to me, it's just, if I use the word, I often say I just use the word woo. I'm no better informed about a soul or a spirit than I am if I use the word woo. But a lot of people like to use it, and so you'll hear it here.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's just a claim.
Of course.
Sometimes you meet somebody and you kind of like feel like you've already met them, like you kind of you take to them real easily, right?
Like
you
vibe with them.
Like you vibe with them, right?
Yeah.
So Islam explains that. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, told us that we were arwah, we were souls, right? And
okay, so every time you hear this, by the way, I'd like everybody as a viewer to go, we were woo, right? And tell yourself afterwards, right? If you think that soul is informative, explain it. If you're viewing this or if you're watching this afterwards, make a comment about this and then tell me what it is and why I ought to believe that what you think is the case. Right? It's no good because anybody can make it. I could say soul is just, it's just this ether thing. It's just like the starlight coming down on me. I could just make up anything. The question is, what is it and why would I believe that that's the case? Or why should anybody else believe it too? Right, so replace the word soul in your mind when you hear it with the word woo, and then you'll see how silly it sounds.
By the way, something I'm just picking up now, what this guy is doing, I find inherently dishonest. Because what they're always saying is Jesus is a Muslim. This is what you see written on this tarpaulin there. Now, what they're trying to do is cater to the American public by sort of bringing Islam close to Jesus, because they know Jesus is the main guy in Christianity, And this is why they're always saying, well, we love Jesus. So it's always about Jesus, because they think that by getting closer to Jesus, they're getting closer to Christians, and therefore they're trying to make it easy to build a bridge from Christianity to Islam, or Muslim from Christian to Muslim, because they think, well, you've already got the God in there. All you have to do is understand that he was not really a God, that he was just a prophet. And this is so dishonest in my eyes, because the Jesus in the Quran is not, the Isa is not the same as the Jesus, because Jesus was not sacrificed. He did not come as a savior and as the son of a God or anything. He's just a prophet who lived like 1,500 years earlier as the son of Mary, who is the sister of Moses and Aaron, the daughter of Imran. That's how you see it. So I don't understand how people can accept this Jesus as a Muslim, because Jesus and Isa are not the same people. I never understand why people are doing this, and why nobody calls them out for it and saying, listen, what you are doing is you're being a hypocrite.
Yeah. And just by the way, there we've got somebody perfect. Saif al-Islam. Atheist, I have to admit, there is a soul now. Well, now you mean as in recently? And you didn't think so before? Even if it's explained as energy. Well, no, then you've got energy. Then the word soul is irrelevant and superfluous. And if the soul is different from energy, how is it different? And why do we have any good reason to think that's the case? So you've got a lot of work ahead of yourself. But hey, if you want to use the word and think that it means something, great. When will you nihilist freaks learn? Learn what? Well, when you actually say something coherent and meaningful, then perhaps we'll learn. If you just make vacuous statements, then obviously we're not going to take that particularly seriously.
We were at a different existence where we were just souls, no bodies.
Okay.
Right? And many souls met each other. And that's why sometimes you meet somebody and you vibe with them right away. And
oh, what a lovely story. And they lived happily ever after. Hey, look, anybody can make up stories, right? Doesn't it sound good to the gullible ear? To the rest of us, hey, I've got better stories that I read to my kids. Right? So, but hey, I'm sure it sounds good to the ears. Just demonstrate what this thing is, why we ought to believe it, and how this all works. And if they do exist, presumably Allah in his wisdom has explained this somewhere. I haven't found it anywhere yet, but I'm still looking.
sometimes you meet somebody and you're just not, it's not clicking, right?
Right.
So then those souls, they transition from that life into the womb of the mother.
Okay.
Right? And that's a whole different life. Like if you think about it, it's a whole different existence.
Yeah.
Like look how you
He's going to just tell us a lovely fairy story here. I hope at the end, though, it's they lived happily ever after. Otherwise, I'm going to be disappointed in the story. Now, this fellow is sitting there listening. I don't know if he's going to, if he just asks questions or whether he's going to critique it all, but we'll see.
right now you breathe in through your nose, your mouth, you're breathing in air. When you were in the womb, you were taking in liquids, but you were getting the same oxygen, right?
Yeah.
You eat right now, you got teeth, you take a good sandwich, you bite it up, right?
Yeah.
But in the womb, you got a tube that was feeding you, right?
Okay, so this is typically called, trivialities, telling us things that we already know. I'm just waiting to hear, well, he actually did say it. I normally use this as an example of a triviality, and he beat me to it, right? That we all breathe air. Well, thank you for not giving you any more informative information about any particular topic that you already knew. It's not like I'm giving you anything interesting or informative. We all know that we need to breathe air. So this is a textbook example of mentioning in short order a whole bunch of trivialities. My question is, so what? Thank you. I mean, you could go on all day with all these trivialities and give me the whole story of your version of creation or the real one, whichever one. At some point they might cross over, and you'll neatly transition between the two as if, science and the Quran are in alignment when, of course, they're diametrically opposed. But so what? What are all these trivialities? Did he ask for a biological lesson? What is the point of giving us these trivialities? Are you at the end going to say something like, and this is all miraculous? Let's see. I can't remember.
We don't breathe water in the womb to get oxygen.
No, exactly.
Uh-huh.
You didn't see other people, you didn't talk. I mean, imagine if I told you like you're going to come into a world and people are going to be dressed up like furries or whatever that is, right?
Yeah,
You're going to see, it would be hard to believe, right? Think it through, like it would be hard. Like what? Like I'm in this little place and this is all life is. Like to a baby inside the
What gibberish is this? Imagine if I came to you as a baby and said, oh, look, you're going to be in a world like this. You could be in any sort of world. I mean, what is this gibberish?
the fetus,
Okay.
it can't imagine, right? But then you pass through that phase and you die from that 9-month life and you come into a new life.
Yeah.
And in this life, the existence is all
Did he say you die in that 9-month life and come into this life?
Yeah.
What is he talking about? I mean, maybe this is metaphorically, he's just making up his own stuff here.
I don't know.
Everybody understands certainly what physically what dying is, right? That's ceasing of life. Obviously, the 9-month-old is given birth, as in like you're alive, that whole process, whatever time you want to call being alive, but it's certainly before you come out the womb. So what is this?
All different.
But hang on, there's one positive thing here. We've gone through, I can't read the number, like 3 minutes, and he has not mentioned once that he has a master in Hadith study.
Oh, has he? I didn't even remember that.
No, he didn't.
Normally what he does?
Because normally every 5 seconds he mentions this.
Oh, okay, right. I wasn't aware of that.
Quran.
But the interesting thing is, isn't it fascinating? People who have expertise, the real people who have expertise, don't need to tell you. When they start to talk about the topic, you immediately can grasp they have expertise. What I notice is the people that don't feel like they have this or feel the need to tell you about their expertise are normally the ones that don't have the expertise or feel like they are less than, and so they have to tell you their expertise. You don't need to tell me, you just need to demonstrate it. And that's where you can see the difference between real experts and pseudo-experts.
Well, we have this famous example of this guy on TV where he said, I have a PhD, and that is why I'm the expert in Islam. And it turns out his PhD was in creative writing.
Oh, yes, that Reza Aslan fellow.
Yeah. Stop spamming is running from Nadia Ahmed. Excuse me, I done him like 3 or 4 times.
Well, I think we all run from Nadia Ahmed. At some point, you've got to run away from utter nonsense, complete irrationality and dogmatism. At some point, you have to let it go. There's some people you can never get through to, and he's a textbook example.
How many times should I flatten the guy?
Oh, like, can you imagine this guy being close to a fetus, right?
Right.
And then this life lasts however long, 10 years, 20 years, 30, 100, whatever, right? That's your lifespan. Then you die from this life.
Okay.
Right? And that connection between that soul and the body disconnects.
Okay.
Like, have you seen a dead body?
It's almost like he's teaching this as if he knows this to be the case, right? This is almost looks like it's a science teacher teaching you about biology. And now it's almost like in a cartoon, right? You've got to rewind and go, hang on a moment. This is the story you're telling this guy, right? But it sounds to the gullible ears, right? And if we look at all the comments here, which is where we got all these comments from, like, that was amazing. He's just telling you a story. You don't know this to be true. I mean, it might sound like he thinks what he knows, what he's talking about, and this is their strength. I will give them this. They speak with a level of certainty that the gullible ear is easily hypnotized by. Wow, that sounds amazing. Can you demonstrate it's true? No, but after you die, you'll see. Well, thanks very much. Why would I believe it?
Yeah.
Body? A funeral, maybe?
Something like that.
Hopefully not something that
On TV.
no details, all right.
Exactly.
But if you see it in real life, right? Like, I had a friend that got shot in high school, and I saw his dead body. And he's got everything. Like, he's got eyes, he's got hair, he's got a face. But you can tell from looking at him that spark's gone. That ruh, soul, is disconnected, right? So
my question is, how do you tell that? Oh, because his eyes aren't blinking. Well, thank you. You're just looking at his physical appearance. It'd be very hard for you to tell without some prompting. And I have seen it done by Darren Brown, prompting. If you looked at pictures of people, right, people that were just staring into the camera, whether it was a dead body or not, I'm not sure that you'll get it correct. It's not so easy to tell. All you are going to tell is you're going to make a guess. If you see the person, you might see the skin's discolored. But what you're doing is you're observing things about the physical body. Now, from there, how do you establish that this ruh has gone somewhere, or indeed that there is one? Well, he just believes that's the case, so let's just throw it in then and tell the whole story, right? I'll throw in a bit of observation about the real world, and then I'll just add my fairy story along. And if I meld them nice and weave them together in a quick succession that sounds good to the gullible ear, my word, then it sounds amazing, doesn't it?
it's like a robot when you turn it off, it just stops, right? So this is that soul that's taken out, right?
Yeah.
And then we enter into a new level of existence called barzakh. I'm going to explain it, but I'm just giving you terms, right? This is the life in the grave, right? This is a time where you will have a totally different level of existence. The way we interact is not going to be there, right? And this is kind of a waiting period. And as we know, everything then comes to an end, right? All of the prophets that were sent, from Abraham to Moses to Jesus to Muhammad, we believe in all of them. We love all of them.
Yeah.
They told us that, look, this life is temporary. This world is temporary, right? This will end.
Well, they didn't need to come and tell you this. I think it was demonstrably obvious as generations died and new ones came into being. Again, this is a trivial statement. It's not as if they came along and said, wow, and everybody got, really? We never knew that. That's amazing. You've told us something informative, instructive that we never knew before. No, they're telling them what they already knew. It's called triviality.
And then there'll be a judgment. Everybody will be brought to account for what they did. Nobody's going to get away with anything, right? God is just. I mean, not going to.
This is the perfect human, construction, isn't it? There is such a need for some humans for everybody to be accountable because, hey, if somebody got away with it, that just wouldn't be fair in this world. So let me have the story that I can tell myself and others that everybody's going to be judged and held accountable. That makes me feel so much better. So when I look at that person who has maybe got more of what I don't have, or they've done something that I think's wrong, well, I can console myself that somewhere along the line they're going to be judged. There's such a need for this. It's such a human need that they sort of map onto this God. And in my view, any God that would judge his humanity is not worth the label God and certainly isn't worthy of worship. It is an immoral God to judge its own creation. Think about it. What harm could you possibly do this entity? Nothing. The only reason we judge people on this planet is because they can inflict some harm. If it were the case that we couldn't possibly harm each other, I wouldn't be judging people. They get on with whatever they're doing, I get on with mine. If they couldn't interfere with me in any negative way, I would have no need for judgment. And especially if they didn't hurt anybody else either, right? If we could, and we certainly can't hurt God. So, but this is just a human projection, right? This is just an inbuilt thing that they want to anthropomorphize onto God and say, well, hey, it's in the book.
Like, you murder and things, and just because the cops don't catch you, think you got away? Nah, right? After that judgment, then you will have your final destinations, right? That's another level of existence now. Now that life of the grave, the barzakh, is finished. Now you have what we call the akhirah, the hereafter, right? Totally different. Now, just like if we went to the...
Go on, stops.
No, I'm just chuckling because this is so... Come on. Yeah. This is what I said in a recent video that I made. They are talking about the details, like the color of the shoes that Cinderella was wearing and how many doves were or pigeons were in the kitchen and the color of her dress. It doesn't change that it's a fairy tale just because you are able to make up some details.
You see, the other thing I've noticed here, Stops, he's used to be in a store like this and be able to preach. Right, if he comes on here or he speaks to other people, we're not going to let him ramble on for 5 minutes here or however long this is, 3 minutes and 50 seconds. We're going to jump in straight away. We don't want to hear a long story that he's made up in his head. We want to know, why do you believe it's true? What good reasons are there? And why should we believe it too? Right? But he's used to talking to people like this who just stand there and listen. So when he comes to a debate scenario, people don't have the time, and neither would I. Even with my patients, I'm not going to let him go on like this. I'm going to go, what's the point here? Give me the short version of this. Right? If I can summarize your point and you're not halfway done, then I've got the point and you're just rambling for the sake of it because you're used to doing this. It's like you're not doing it to have a conversation with me. You're doing it for the gullible audience so that they can go, as we see here, look how wonderful this is. And if that's what you're doing, I'm going to interrupt you, or you go and do it with somebody else. But don't waste my time with this sort of thing. But that's what he's used to doing at these stalls, right?
And remember what Pine Creek did. He said, can you give me your best reason within 20 seconds?
Yeah, beautiful, right? Again, big shout out to Pine Creek. Obviously, Stops and I, we'd heard of him, but after his Muslim interaction, we still watch it. And he's a great example of doing it with a slightly different technique. And many times that's very effective as well. So, and he's been doing it certainly longer than I have, probably about the same level as Stops, or maybe a bit less, I'm not sure. But again, a great asset.
I don't have this ability that he has. He has this ability of this what I envy so much, this quick thinking on your feet, that he will hear an argument and this will link somehow to a memory of something that he has somewhere which is pertinent, which he can pull up, and then he says, well, okay, if we do that, but then this means that if you apply it here, what happens then? So he's able to bring something up and ask a question. How do you handle this? And that's how he gets people stuck. And that is so fucking brilliant. And I wish I could do that.
Yeah, watch more of his videos. I guess that's the only way to do it, I guess, and try that technique. Yeah.
The fetus and try to explain it, all we could do is give examples. Right. Like, we can't really tell a fetus what is clothes. We can be like, well, it's kind of like your skin, but you can take it off. And like, well, right? So those prophets that were given that revelation from the creator who made us, then come and tell us about that hereafter, right? Like, there's paradise, there's everlasting life, you get to live a good life. Christians have different ideas. Well, I'm telling you from Islam, like we don't.
There you go. Christians have got different ideas. Everybody's got their own story. Why would we believe yours is, well, mine is true because the book says so. Well, so does other people's. No, but my book is really true. All you've done there, my friend, is show this fellow and all the rest of us that everybody else has stories too. I'm sure, like you, like them, you think your story is true. Well, the rest of us are looking at him going, you don't have good reasons to believe this. But hey, if you want to believe it, that's up to you. Just don't come and tell us that it's a true story. At the moment, I'm listening to this fairy tale. I'm still waiting for the happily hereafter, etc. And maybe to actually get to the point here. If this is describing what's after death, you could have done it in 30 seconds. But like I say, because he said to stand here, this person is just listening and not interrupting, he feels like he go on and on. We're at 4 minutes here, over 4 minutes now of supposedly telling him about what happens after death, right? So he wants to give him the whole long story.
And the thing is, I use exactly this argument to do a very quick kill of Islam, because if God is incapable of giving me, a human being, the message, why should he give it to another human being who has to go and explain it to me, if he could easily have given me the same message, because we're both on the same level as human beings. So this kills Islam instantly.
And all they'll say is, well, God works in a mysterious way. Who knows the mind?
Allah knows best.
Yeah. Well, hang on a moment. He gave you a book. He's supposedly telling you what's in his mind. Go and look in the book. See if you can find something that gives you an answer, or pray to him, or get some kind of answer. It's intellectually lazy to say Allah knows best. Because if he knows best, he's supposed to have told us. And the book tells us that he's supposed to tell us these things.
I don't believe you're going to be sitting on clouds playing harps or whatever weird stuff you see on TV.
Oh, no, that weird stuff. No, that you don't believe in. But my weird stuff about going to heaven, well, no, that's normal. That's not weird. I mean,
flying donkeys, talking ants, that's perfectly acceptable.
The hypocrisy here and the lack of introspection. It's just because they believe it's true. Everything else just is silly, right? Playing harps, I mean, that's just crazy. But my craziness, no, that's not crazy. That's entirely, well, it's not crazy because it's true. The rest isn't true, therefore crazy.
Remember Mehdi Hassan, when he was asked by Dawkins, Professor Dawkins, do you, and I will credit you, no, I will give you the credit that you don't, but just in case, do you think there's something to the story with the flying donkey? And Mehdi Hassan, yeah, I teach my children that. Of course I believe that. And Dawkins was shaking his head. He was in disbelief. That a grown-up person
wasn't that in Oxford somewhere where he did this interview, right? Where Hassan tried to press him on some tough issues to make him uncomfortable and so forth. And that's one of the times where he was incredulous that he could believe these stories. And this is a guy that supposedly looks intelligent, sounds intelligent, etc., and believes in this nonsense. Right?
He's a journalist.
Yeah. But somehow he's managed to climb up the ranks and thinks he's got some influence and so forth. But when he's cornered,
I saw him on some big network.
Yeah, but when he's asked these questions, he's just like any other Muslim. Whether they have philosophy or whatever, they've still got to refer to the Quran. Once they do that, it's a ball and chain they can't extricate themselves from. They can't release themselves from. So they can put on shiny armor, they can look good, they can polish up and, smile and sing and so forth, metaphorically, but they're still weighed down by the Quran, all of them, right? So it doesn't matter. It's
actually a good analogy. It's a good metaphor, this ball and chain, yeah. You're always attached to it, you can't get rid of it. And it doesn't matter how silly it is, you still need to stick by it. Yeah, true.
We don't believe the devil runs hell like that. Those are all Christian ideas. In Islam, we believe in heaven.
Excuse me? What did he just say? Did he seriously just say devil doesn't run hell?
I think that's what he said. Let's check.
Weird stuff you see on TV. We don't believe the devil runs hell like that. Those are all Christian ideas. In Islam.
Yep.
What the hell? This is what Iblis does. This is exactly the point. My God, but he's got a master
he might say, but God ultimately is running it. Well, okay, but then God is running hell, right? So what's Iblis? Is he just the right-hand man? Because God is incapable or doesn't want to get his hands dirty or what? I mean, so whatever you say here, you've got questions to ask them, right? Alhamdulillah, Iblis there.
We believe in heaven. It is a beautiful place, a place that the Quran tells us and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, told us is so beautiful that you can't imagine, right?
Okay, well then how do you know it's beautiful? If it's inconceivable, this is all just faith claims, right? This is just fairy tales. Because what he says is if you can't even conceive of it, which is what that means is it's inconceivable, then you have no idea. But it's so beautiful it's inconceivable. Well, I can conceive of beauty, but I don't know what so beautiful that I can't conceive of actually means. And it's something that I've read recently. It's unintelligible. Right? The statement isn't that we don't understand what it means, as in like we don't understand that he said the sentence, but what the sentence refers to in reality, there's nothing underneath the sentence. It's vacuous. Right? When somebody says, "Oh, you're as beautiful as X or Y," we've got something that we can immediately appeal to as a way to link beautiful with whatever it is in the world. But if it's inconceivable, then there is no content value by which you can assess that. So that statement is actually unintelligible.
So all we can get is similitudes, like, okay, there'll be trees, there'll be rivers, there'll be beautiful places.
Oh, but now he starts to explain it.
It's unimaginable, but there you
now
go.
I'm going to explain to you the sort of place that you would want on earth, that you would dream of, like, let's say, whatever, the Garden of Eden type thing, but somehow that's suddenly in heaven. We're not going to have that here, which you can conceive of. And all the things that you'd want here, well, no, those things are bad here, but they're okay up there. This is just like a carrot and stick thing. I'm going to deny you it all here, but if you follow my instructions, do what I tell you. You can have all of those things that you would really want here, because that's the way I built you, but you can have it up there. But it's inconceivable.
There'll be birds, but again, it's something you couldn't really imagine from the things of this life, right? No ear has heard such a thing, no mind has thought of it, no eye has seen it, but these are things that...
Well, you're just telling us about it, so make up your mind. Either we haven't seen it or heard it, and it's inconceivable, or it isn't. You tried to describe it, so it's either one or the other. I mean, you're just contradicting yourself here.
That are given examples of. You will be with your family, you will have spouses, you will have everlasting life, you will be good looking, you will not have disease. Like, those things are the tests of this world.
Yeah.
In other words, you'd have a perfect world on earth. Just skip heaven and let's have that here on earth. Then we're done. Right? Just give us that here on earth. Just reveal yourself, and those that want to follow you can stay here on earth and have that right here, and those that don't can go somewhere else. So ideally, be annihilated. That's probably, if you were all merciful, then you annihilate those who want it to be. So just make earth perfect, and then you've got it. Right? Heaven is just, the idealized version of earth. Why would we need to go to heaven?
Yeah, exactly. Remember that Thunderous was telling us, as soon as you read something about heaven, it's always the opposite of what you will find on earth. So, if you have a small penis or a erectile dysfunction in heaven, no, you don't have this. All the penises are big and constantly erect. If you have a bald head or something, no, you're going to have full hair. So it's always the opposite of what you have on earth is what you find in heaven.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Because that's what most people gravitate towards. But I won't give it to you here, but I'll just have it, ready as a carrot for you in the afterlife, if that's what you really, really want. So you can look forward to something that you would have wanted to have on earth, would have eventually get bored with anywhere here on earth. But because you don't have it now, you think it'll be all enticing when you get there. But eventually, if you're anything like what you are now, you will eventually get bored of that too.
Right? And then there is the hell, which is like a place of punishment, right? We don't think of it like the cartoon hell, where like devil sitting with a pitchfork, like not like that. Like there's cold, hot, whatever. Even the fire is not. We don't take it to be like the fire of this world.
No, it's an inconceivable fire. We just make up our own. We just make up our own idea because we don't want it to sound bad to unbelievers, but we still want to say it's bad. But we don't quite know how to say this, so we'll say some sort of gibberish that I've just said there, which is like just nothing of substance there. Basically, it's not like anything you understand, but it's still a bad place.
Yeah, but it's still, it says about hell that is being fueled by stones and the skin of the people. And then when your skin has burned off and you've suffered like crazy, then the next day it is going to be replaced with new skin. So it literally talks about the heat, the fire, the burning. That's what it says all the time. And I don't.
No, but he's not going to tell that to this guy, right? He's not going to tell you that part of it. He's going to make it sound like it's a bad place, but it's not this fire and all this other stuff, or that it burns your skin off. No, I don't want to tell you that, because that would sound pretty disgusting. So I'll give you my, summary of this, which is nothing like what it actually says. But hey, this is my westernized, kind of sanitized version of hell. That is kind of bad, but not too bad that I'm going to explain it to you in detail.
And it's going to be so hot that the people in heaven can see them screaming for water, and they're not allowed to give them water because they had their chance.
What sort of heaven is that? What sort of heaven is that? Could anybody who's listening to our voice here on this show, would you be at ultimate peace in heaven if it was your family or people that you knew, or indeed even people that you didn't know, that were burning and screaming out, and the reason they were down there is because they didn't believe it was true? Could you be at peace? If you can, then you're either a better or a worse person than me. I don't know. I could never be at peace.
And this is actually the question that the rationalizer asked Hamza Tzortzis when he was on the Magic Sandwich show. And he asked him, listen, your dad is still a Christian. He's not a Muslim. Yeah. And you are a Muslim. Yeah. So you're going to go to heaven. Yeah. And your dad's going to go to hell. Yeah. So you're going to be sitting there and you're going to see your dad screaming and begging for water. And you're not allowed to give him water. Is this the kind of God that you want to worship? But all he got was an awkward pause. And Hamza Tzortzis is still a Muslim. So it seems that he doesn't care about this, or he doesn't take this seriously himself.
Or he's either much better or much worse than you and I are.
Yeah.
I leave it to the audience to decide that.
Much worse than that, right? But it's a place we don't want to go, right? So this is why our Creator didn't just leave us, right? Like anything you have in this world, if you manufacture it, you're going to want to make sure people use it right? Like I'm sure you got cell phones, right? So when you buy a Samsung or an Apple or maybe a Nokia, whatever, if you're old school, right? You get it, it comes with a little user manual. Why? Because otherwise somebody could buy it and be like, I'm going to put it in the microwave and see what happens, right? So the manufacturer knows best. Yo, don't put it on, like old Apple phones, they always had a warning, don't let water get to it. Because water was the kryptonite of Apple phones, right? And then they started to get, better and better. And they were like, okay, you can take it to this much and not this much, right? So the manufacturer knows best how the creation or the product should be used, right?
No,
so
not if you're a China man.
Creator, right? We don't believe.
Go ahead.
Sorry, no, I said not if you're reading a Chinese user manual.
Well, this is the whole point, right? This analogy with this, the manufacturer knows best. Yes, we can agree that the manufacturer ought to know best, although it's been found out in time, and I'm sure we could find examples where users have found better ways to use it or ingenious ways that the manufacturer couldn't have conceived of. But put that aside, if we just go with a straight manufacturer's knows best, great. Well, now put that analogy with Islam and look at the manual that you've been given and ask yourself, is that the best the manufacturer can do? And if you're intellectually honest, it would be impossible for you to say yes to that, unless you're irrational or you just have faith. But you can't put forward a rational argument that is the best, because A, you need to define what best is. We need to agree on the criteria, and then you need to show that it in fact meets those criteria. Good luck with anybody doing that.
Well, the whole thing is... Sorry, but the whole thing stinks. Because if he's trying to... I mean, they always fail with the analogy, don't they? And this one fails as well, because it's very easy right from the word go. How am I supposed to understand the manual if it's written in a language that I don't speak? So what is the point of writing a manual? I mean, even the Chinese manage to, sort of put different languages sort of on the instruction manual. But this God, an all-potent, all-capable, all-knowing, all-wise, all-merciful, all-everything God is incapable of transmitting or conveying his wishes and instructions and commands in a way that everybody can understand that, using a dead language that went out 1,000 years ago. Come on, don't give me this nonsense.
And can be interpreted in whichever way suits your current interpretation. If you're in the Middle East, where you're not constrained or have to, sanitize it for Western countries, then you'll take a literal reading. When you're in other countries, you'll give a different interpretation, because otherwise it'd be seen, rightly so, as barbaric. So you go with a non-barbaric and tell us that you can give different interpretations. And it just hit me while you were speaking there, that they claim that we have the fitra, which is this inclination towards God. Now, if in fact God had done this, and I think that's clearly been falsified, but if it were the case that God had built this fitra into us, then he could have also put the manual into us, or at least a part of the manual that every single human would want to use at any point in their time. And since he knows exactly how our life would be, he didn't have to give us the entire manual. There's parts of the manual that I would never need, because he knows what my life's going to be like, but he could imprint on me or give me, in the same way he's given the fitra, the parts of the manual that I would want access to directly to me, bypassing all the middlemen. But hey, if you bypass the middleman, then you don't have all these prophets and you don't have all this middle extra bit in here that we need to worry about. And then I can go straight to the source. Then he and all of his ilk are out of a job, because we don't need these people. But what do? We get the worst possible way of doing it, with some guy that heard stories in a cave, and then it was recorded in terrible ways in a small book that's supposedly in a language, as Slop says, that most people can't understand. So it's been interpreted. And now you have people like this trying to tell you their fairy story version of it. Is this the best that this manual owner or manufacturer can do? I mean, the question answers itself, doesn't it?
Nowhere. Like that doesn't, like anybody who says that doesn't really think that, right? Because if you think it through, how could that be? Right? Like you're a logical, questioning, intelligent man. Like, to think about this. Like, if I told you,
I'm not so sure about that. He's just standing there basically listening. I mean, we're only 6 minutes into this thing, and we've been going for 40 odd minutes between us here. So, yeah. But look, I understand not everybody is, right? So this isn't really criticism of him. And maybe he is in other views, but he's sitting very quietly here. But again, right, there's 3 or 4 Muslims standing around there. This guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about. And if you don't know anything, you're going to probably be charitable and go, okay, well, he knows what he's talking about. But for those of us who know a little bit more, we're going to go, no, half of this is gibberish and the other half is fairy tales. So, no, we're not going to take this seriously. But we are going to point out all of the things that he's saying that are either not true or he's just making up, or it's his interpretation.
that everything here just appeared over billions of years. Nobody had anything to do with this. Like this Quran, nobody printed it. Right. These letters, everything.
Go on, Stops. You go first.
No, this is... Rob, this is... I don't know. This gets me so frustrated. It's always the same silly story. It's like a child that doesn't learn anything, that doesn't... I mean, I used to think like this when I was 11 or 12, but then I grew up. I learned how to use my brain. But this guy is stuck at the age of 11 and he's just repeating the same story over and over. I don't know how it happened, therefore God. I don't know. This is silly. How can you get through to people that this does not cut it? This is not the way to do it. Don't do that. It is silly.
Yeah, but remember what's going on here, right? This is an appeal to intuition. And most people's intuition is easily, swayed. Right? Look at this book. This wouldn't have come about over millions of years, but the book is not analogous with what, at least the claims are, is that we came about over billions of years. And if you look at how big the universe is, how many galaxies, 2 trillion galaxies, 400 billion stars per galaxy, you start to work out the numbers and they become astronomically big. And then you just need one place in this entire universe where life can form. Unless you could show that it's impossible, all you can say is, by your lights, by your subjective opinion, it's improbable. Well, you're entitled to that view. The statistics, the numbers can be swayed in any which way you like. But what he does with the book is go, hey, look, the book doesn't. And most people go, yeah, no, that needs an author. And so the intuition is tweaked. Well, this paper wouldn't have just come together. But that's not analogous with what we're actually talking about. We can grant the paper doesn't come together, or that's very unlikely. But the likelihood of molecules coming together, that's not as unlikely as you might claim to think. And so this analogy is deeply flawed, and it's an appeal to intuition fallacy. It's a fallacy of appealing to your intuition, but not actually, bringing forth a substantive argument.
Is that a real fallacy?
Yeah, appeal to intuition, right?
Never heard of it. Okay.
Yeah,
you see, you watch the Gin and Tonic show. Here you learn things.
Thing just came by itself, right? If I told you this table, we didn't bring it today in a car. It just, over billions and trillions of years, grains of sand, made a table, made this sheet, made all these, made this cover, made this writing. Nobody would believe me, right? Right? Well, the human body is more complex than this. The atmosphere is more complex.
There we go. Right. Now we're going to relate it back, right? With a terrible analogy, we're now going to try and relate it back. This is the Ali Dawah stuff. So we can see where this fella's at, right? This is the Ali Dawah level, right? You wouldn't hear sophisticated people do this. They know better. This is a, what's the term? What's the fallacy called where you do this? Equivocation fallacy, right? You're equivocating between these things, which is intuitional, or things that are made by humans, and then you're appealing to the natural. And you're going, well, hang on a moment. Look, if these things, which quote unquote are simple, are made by a manufacturer, these things that are more complex. Now you ask them, what's the criteria? I did this with Ali Dawah, but once in Speaker's Corner, I took a bottle of water and I took a plastic cup, and I said, and I put this in front of him, and I said, which of these two is more complex? What do you think he said?
The bottle of water.
He didn't say either one of them. He couldn't give a criteria. And I knew he wouldn't, right? Because that's what I wanted to do, to show that he's appealing to intuition. When he goes to the phone, people in Moody go, okay, well, there's circuitry inside it, this is complex, wow. But then they appeal to the body. Well, how do you say that's more complex? Oh, because it's got all this DNA, Well, again, I can just do the opposite, right? And I can say, well, simplicity is the hallmark of design. When something is simply designed so that it can be used or whatever the case is, that's a hallmark of a great design. Not complexity. No, but that's not what we're talking about. Okay. What's your criteria and why do I need to accept it? Oh, well, the criteria I'm going to have is X, Y, and Z because this supports my argument. And all I have to say is, well, I don't accept that. I support this criteria, which will accept my argument. And now we get nowhere. But because nobody knows how to challenge these sort of guys, it sounds like this is all, and the Muslims go, well, that's amazing. This is Ali Dawah level stuff, really. Equivocation fallacy deluxe going on here.
Than this. The world is more complex.
By the way, Rob, just 1 second. I just want to point something out. A Muslim here is doing something that the Quran prohibits, okay? And that is to use offensive nicknames and to insult something. So the funny thing is he calls us morons, and YouTube has censored this and removed his comment. A Muslim's comment has been removed because he's calling us morons.
Well, by the way, I don't agree with YouTube removing it. I want those comments to be there, right? It says more about the person who's making them than anything else. And you're absolutely right. Most Muslims haven't read their Quran, and if they have, they don't remember these sort of things. It's like a fleeting read over because I have to, and I'm a Muslim, and let me get through this. But they don't even know that's in the Quran, right? Or this guy should be praying to Allah, but hey. Again, most Muslims just don't understand all.
He should know because he's just pissed off his God, The second thing that I want to say, this is quite funny. Allah challenges you to make a fly. You can't. Well, neither can Allah. This is the whole point. Because I've had this so many times by Muslims. And they say, yeah, he did. He made all the flies. I said, well, show me. Show me one fly. I would like now a fly to appear on my hand. Tell him to make a fly. I want to see this. And nothing happens. You see, he can't even make a fly.
Yeah, perfect one. That's like the Pine Creek, right? Just light this wet rag for me. That'll convince me. Just put a fly in my hand right now from scratch. Boom, let it come up. That's so easy. I mean, that's not even challenging me. He wouldn't even have to break the moment's sweat. Just make a fly appear on my hand. Then I can say, wow. And especially if you prayed for it, I'm much more likely to think that as a result of your prayer, and especially if you do it multiple times and you're the only one who's doing it. This is an easy empirical experiment to do, right? And then they say, oh, well, with science, you can't prove or disprove God. Well, you certainly can show the implications of God's supposed actions in this world if he's interfered in reality in some way.
Precision than this. So how can you say that this came out of nowhere? No.
Oh, I love this one, precision. Now, if you ever hear this, by the way, from a Muslim saying something about our precision, just ask them about the eye, ask them about the laryngeal nerve, which is the one that goes down the side of your neck, etc. If you were perfect and precision about us dying of old age in a relatively short amount of time, especially compared to the universe, decrepitude, disease, all of these sort of things, but just how the body gives way after less than 100 years normally. And in years gone past, Muhammad's time, 40, 50 years old or whatever the case is, people dying in incredible pain. And you're telling me that this is precision made. Every one of us could design, if we had the power to design, quote unquote, a human being optimally with precision, way better in virtually every single possible conceivable way. A challenge for the Muslims. Name me one single thing that Allah's designed that could not be improved upon. There's a challenge for you. Anything you bring me, I'll show you that it can be made better. Go on. If you're in the chat now, you're watching this afterwards, mail us or send us a message, show us something that is so optimally designed that it could not have been made better. And I guarantee you I'll make it better for you.
Nobody guides it, nobody develops it. We don't, even evolution, well, who evolves? Who's the one controlling the evolution, right? If you say random selection, that makes no sense. Think of it, right? If I give you a piece of paper.
Yes, who's random? Because I don't understand it. It makes no sense. Your ignorance is not an excuse for something not making sense. Just educate yourself and it would make sense.
And an ink pen, and I just saw you just start randomly throwing ink at it. Over a gazillion years, you'll never get Hamlet written out exactly the way it should be, right? You will get different patterns, but you're not going to get Hamlet, right?
Sorry, Rob, there's one thing that I need to point out here, because I see this mistake being made over and over and over, because what they do is they present a goal. And then they say, well, here's the goal, and look, evolution can't get to that goal. That is not the way that it works. We always need to immediately jump on this and say, you do not understand what evolution is all about. That is not the way. And we need to call them out on this, because I've heard this argument being made in 99% of the cases when they talk about evolution.
Yeah, it's not God-orientated in the sense that he, like a teleologically, goal-orientated. It's, through environmental pressure. But again, right, I'm not an expert, but my goodness me, this guy's much worse. Doesn't make sense. Well, sure, anything that you don't understand, you can say doesn't make sense. Yeah. But even things that we do try to understand, like Islam, don't make sense. So,
Well, what I do is I ask these people, okay, how many airbags does it take in the new S-Class in 2020 before it deploys the passenger airbag? And then, of course, he's going to say, well, I don't know. I said, oh, so that means God made it. Because you don't know something, that means it's automatically God made. So God made the Mercedes S-Class. And then they realize there are things that you cannot know because you're not an expert in this, which are not made by God.
Yeah.
It's your body and how precise it is. You see these eyebrows? If you didn't have these eyebrows right here, you couldn't walk in the sun.
What utter nonsense. I mean, this guy's just nodding along here, right? But this is what happens, right? When he gets on a roll, and this is just a preaching monologue now, he can say any gibberish he wants, and somebody, even the fellow there that doesn't believe this, is because you're kind of hypnotized into it. Now, you're not taking this all in, especially if you aren't interrupting and so forth. It becomes like a pattern, becomes like a hypnotic thing almost, right? You've gone internally, you're not necessarily got your full focus. People's focus doesn't stay long. You've got to interrupt the patterns regularly, which is what we try to do on here. But what utter gibberish that you could, this is a ridiculously trivial test. Just shave your eyebrows or get him to do it. I guarantee he can't. And if he couldn't see, I'll give him £10,000. I'll give him £1 million. I'll borrow the money. But if he can see and he can operate perfectly without his eyebrows, then he owes me £1 million. Will he take that bet? Yeah.
A friend, he was barbecuing, burnt off his eyebrows. He found out the hard way, right? You can't walk around. Like, look at who put, like, how
can't you walk around? What prevents you if you don't have eyebrows? What is it that prevents you from walking around or not seeing or whatever the case is?
There is the case that if it's on a hot summer's day, if it's very humid and you are sweating, then the sweat, some of it will not run down the arch of the eyebrow, but will get caught in the hair and then gets deflected off to the side. This does not happen, so there are going to be some drops which come into your eye. So fucking what?
Exactly. It doesn't mean you can't walk around. You can wipe your eyes.
Opening your eyes underwater.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. Yeah. But it's true. There is some discomfort because you're going to have more of your sweat running into your eyes, and that's it. It's just a slight discomfort. So there's no big deal.
Yeah. And it doesn't stop you walking around. I mean, my goodness. You just wipe your forehead and wipe your eyes. You do it regularly anyway, like you say, when you're swimming or whatever the case is.
Well, Rob, didn't you know, why do you need your ears? Well, you need them to see, because that's how your glasses get held. Why do you need your nose? Well, so that you can see, because that's where the spectacles are being held. So, you can create different things.
Yeah, you can just make up anything, right? This fairy tale just gets deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole, doesn't it?
Why did I call this Farooq Makes Stuff Up?
Randomly happen, right? If we had random mutation, then you would be randomly growing a horn or randomly growing wings.
Oh my word. This is how much he understands about random mutations. Oh my word. It's frightening, right? Like I say, I'm not an expert, but I would never say something so utterly stupid. But I just refrain from saying something about it if I didn't know that's randomly growing a horn. That's just incredible. Now, one could, the thing is, one could explain to him why you wouldn't randomly grow a horn. But do you think that he would either accept it, understand it, or be able to repeat it? That would be a true miracle. Then I'd be going, is there really a God? If you could explain this to this, and the guy accepted it and he could repeat it back, I'd be going, holy shit, maybe there is a God after all.
Right? Why is it that you always get exactly what you need? Like, even if you look at intelligent selection, you have to have something to select from it, right? You know the minimum gene concept? You have to have a certain number of minimum genes. Well, the idea of evolution is you came from a single gene. Well, that's impossible, scientifically.
Who said you come from a single gene? What is he talking about?
He says you can't. So you need exactly 23 pairs, other it doesn't work, except other animals do. Others don't.
Well, of course, because they think humans were puffed into existence.
It's the post hoc rationalization is where he says, you see, look, we are perfectly adjusted to live here because the atmosphere is suited exactly to what we need to breathe.
Yeah, it's the anthropic principle, right? It's the same thing with the puddle. The water, if it was intelligent, right, would go, wow, look at this pothole that's just made for me. It fits me perfectly. No, the pothole was there. You came afterwards. Same with us.
No organism could survive, right? So we believe there is a creator, and that creator created us, and he made these stages of our life, and then he gave us the guidance we need to pass through these stages successfully.
No, he didn't. I mean, come on, guys. No, but the whole thing, it is factually incorrect because the Quran did not give you all the instruction. The Quran does not give you the details. He had to go and correct the mistakes by then sending Muhammad after him to go and correct the mistakes he made in the Quran because he forgot about all the things. And then he had to go after that and send all the scholars to correct the mistakes and the omissions found in the Hadiths. So at the end of the day, a Muslim has to follow what the scholars say, not what Muhammad or the Quran says. So he is definitely 100% now telling a fib.
Fucking wow! Sorry, pardon my friend.
It's all right. Go ahead.
That was pretty wow.
Good. You like it?
That was like very thorough. Bam, bam, bam.
See, even they're impressed with a fairy story, right? So unfortunately, again, not critical thinking, but we can't blame members of the public, right? Bear this in mind, and it's only something you realize. I was speaking to my wife about it today. They stop your forehead falling over your eyes. It's one of the things I was speaking to my wife today about, right? I was talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect, and I'm not an expert in whatever. Stops and I are not experts in like, again, you know, we're, I think, a bit more humble with that sort of stuff. But I think we know a bit more than the lay person in the street. And we've also cultivated the ability to think critically and so forth. But it's something that most humans never do or never cultivate or never get to a point where they have some level of expertise. And for us, it becomes like and I still miss things, of course. And I go, when I'm listening to other people, I pick up and I went, I wouldn't have got that necessarily. Like Stop said one or two things here. I went, okay. I just wouldn't have thought of saying that, right? So there's always things that you can pick up along the way, but that's trial and error. It's like going to the gym. But these guys, unfortunately, and most humans are like this, and we are in other aspects, by the way. We're not like, if we went to some other area, we'd be lay people. But the idea of thinking critically, I think, is a universal concept that you can apply. And once you learn that skill, it's a bit like, you know, once you've gone to the gym, you can go to any gym in the world. It's not like, you know, you have to go and learn how to do weights again. It's a skill you've learned, etc. It's the same with critical thinking. And, you know, that's what I would want for everybody. There's so much here. We're 8 minutes into this, and we've been going now for almost an hour, or a bit less, 50 minutes, whatever it is, talking about all the things where this guy's got it wrong. But these guys are impressed that, look, he could have said that about, you know, the Greek gods, right? Yes, it's a nice fairy story. Thanks very much. Why should I believe it's true? That's the question to ask, at least if you haven't asked any other questions. Let's see what they say.
That's great.
Excellent. Well, you have the Quran. Take this. This is a rule.
Honestly, I'm gonna just stick with this.
You sure?
No, I'm gonna stick with this.
Good. Go for it. The Quran is the source. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice talking to you guys. If you have.
Talking to you guys.
Yeah, preaching to you guys, right? Telling you my fairy story. And here's what I guess one of his buddies here who's going to give his backup.
So clear in detail, like, wow. Yeah.
So clear and detailed. Wow. Just come on this show, my friend, and we'll read some verses together, and then you show us how clear and detailed it is. And you will probably not have much to say. All we have to do is open the Quran almost anywhere and say to you, what does this sentence mean? Right? Tell us the details of this sentence. You'll have no clue.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. And if you have questions after reading, come on back. We're here. All right? Have a good day. Thank you. Okay, well, this is free. This is the Quran itself. If you want to start with that, that's great.
I wonder which one they're giving away. Is that Sahih International, like a sanitized version? Or is it one of the original translations like Yusuf Ali or whatever, right? It's interesting. I'm pretty sure it's not one of the older translations.
The one that they're usually giving away is the easy Quran.
Is that an actual recognized translation, or is that like
no,
a kiddies version?
It's a kiddies version.
Okay. I'm not aware of that version. probably, and thankfully anyway. We'll stick with, the older translations. Otherwise, again, because imagine somebody took this book, right? That's the other thing with this. Imagine you take this book and you go to Speaker's Corner and they say, where'd you get this? And you what? That's not a real translation. Right? So the other side of this is if you try and critique it, they're going to say, but this is not a recognized translation. Where'd you get this from? And then he'll deny it or he said, hey, this was just to get them started. I didn't expect them to come along and use this as a basis by which to critique the religion. So there's a double whammy that's involved with giving him Kitty's version of a Quran.
I've got a version here, the Quran, a new translation by Halim. Okay, go ahead. I'll just go and check chapter 4 to see what it says there.
Okay.
Great. If you want to jump into it, it's all free. Go for it. Yeah, you could become Muslim. That's the best that could happen. Have a good one. So Islam is not a new religion. Islam is the same religion that all the prophets brought. That's why it's not named after any of them, right? So we don't say we're Muhammadans, we're Muslims. Muslim means aslama, we submit. So anybody who submitted their will to their creator was a Muslim.
Yeah, this is just a fancy way of them backdating Islam and saying, hey, everybody before us was Muslim. Because who would have cared about this guy in the desert who heard voices claiming to speak to God, right? In order to legitimize it, you want to piggyback off other known religion in that area, right? It's funny that the religions that are true seem to come from the Middle East. It's not religions from the Chinese, the Japanese, or elsewhere, right, where God could have visited. But no, it all happens to be in this one particular area. So they just piggyback off Judaism and Christianity, which had already started to spread. And in order for him to get legitimate, you piggyback on top of that and say, but hang on, these were all Muslims as well. Look, and he's the last one. And this is a way to legitimize it. Otherwise, he's just some lunatic in the desert who's hearing voices. And this is clear when you read through the Quran as well, that this is what's been happening.
And I just did what Smile just said, because I went to 434. If your wife disobeys you, take her out for ice cream. Because I was checking, because this is the Speaker's Corner version that they like. It's also what you call a sanitized version. But no, in 34, it does say, then you go and hit her. But there is a footnote, as is obvious, this is only a single slap to remind her, and that is it. So toning it down, but still, it does say to hit her, because there are versions which don't even say that.
Yeah. And you may well be right. There's one of those versions. Right, so they get a different version. And like you said, we've picked this up a couple of times on some of the websites as well, where the translations have subtly changed and we've not heard about it or anything. So I think what's happening, and of course, you mentioned the Sheikh, the Prince guy in Saudi Arabia, they're slowly trying to sanitize, but doing it slowly and inconspicuously, that it's not really noticed, because the original sheikhs and mullahs and so forth will kick up a huge stink. Who are you to change the Quran? So you ever so slightly just change little bits here and there, especially the unpleasant parts, or you apologize and you give it a different interpretation, right? That way you can kind of sanitize it for the Western audience. But elsewhere,
that's what they did
don't change it. Yeah.
That's what they did on Wikipedia, because Almari said there's two different kinds of people. The one type with a religion and intelligence, no religion and intelligence, the other one with religion but no intelligence. And they changed it. They the same with Al-Razi. They made him into something which is more Muslim friendly, even though he hated it. He was the one who said, by God, you're giving us a challenge about the Quran. We can match it 1,000 times and make it much better. And you're giving us a Quran which is totally useless. They deleted all those pages from Wikipedia. And I was on one of these stands, by the way. And I was trying to ask them about this command and prohibited discrepancy in 6151. And I went through 3 different Qurans. They said, no, all the Qurans are the same. I said, okay, so why is this one 151 and this one is 6152? And he was very embarrassed, because by now, because I was speaking quite loudly, I had like 10 people standing around who were fascinated that I was able to speak to these Muslims and show them that there were some problems there. And then when I showed him, why is this one then 151 and this one 152? The people in the back were laughing and they said, okay, what do you say now? It's very easy once you know the story of Ahmadiyyas and how different versions have different numbers. To me, it was not a surprise, but he was incredibly embarrassed, and you could see that I was finding out and really embarrassing him so easily just with the simple number when he just said, no, they're all the same. And I showed, no, they're not.
Yeah, they all just parrot the same thing they've heard, right?
It was funny.
So we believe Jesus, Moses, Abraham are all Muslims. Islam didn't start with the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It's the same religion. It's just a continuation. So we as Muslims, we love and believe in all the prophets equally. Like we don't say we believe in the Prophet Muhammad and we don't believe in David.
No, you
That would
don't.
not be a Muslim, right? So to us, when David, Moses, Abraham, Jesus did the work of their creator, submitted themselves, they were just as Muslim as the Prophet Muhammad or us as today.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I understand your perspective.
Right. So-
I'm not really religious myself.
Sure.
I'm just curious as to what that meant.
So we're here to build these bridges. We're here to clear up these confusions, right? So
Okay.
people think Islam started with the Prophet Muhammad. That is wrong, right?
Okay.
Islam is the same religion that Abraham and Moses and all the way back to Adam, all of them had is one religion.
But
right?
then it somehow, because people fraction it off, I guess.
So what happens if people deviate, right?
Uh-huh.
So Jesus, peace be upon him, he was a true prophet of Allah. But what happened is people started to worship him, right? Even
As
though
the son of God.
as the son of God or as God,
him, yeah, God,
exactly.
the Holy
The whole
Trinity.
Pauline.
It's crazy, isn't it, this Muslim will think? But it's not crazy that Muhammad heard voices in a cave and came out with these stories and fairy tales and rode a winged, animal and went through the heavens and so forth. None of that's crazy. I mean, that's entirely believable. But Jesus being the Son of God, that's crazy. Or being resurrected, right? That's crazy. But what's the one you always use? Slap a corpse with a stake? That's not crazy. Or talking ants? No, but that's entirely. Those can be miracles, but those other miracles, those are the crazy ones.
Doctrine, right? Which was not taught by Jesus, right? Today, we don't even know what Jesus' original message was because most of what you find in the New Testament is from Orthodox Greek, Koine Greek writings that were written after the time of Jesus. There's no.
Well, hang on a moment. I mean, the scholars, those people who claim it, they claim that those are the closest they have. I mean, you go speak to actual scholars, even Bart Ehrman or whoever these people are, right? They'll have plenty to say on that, and you just dismiss it as if it's nothing. And you forget to tell him that your parchments and bits of paper came way after Muhammad's death as well. So you're in the same boat here. You just want to pretend that, somehow the Christian scriptures are much worse and you've got the better ones. Not true.
Gospel of Jesus, right? Yeah, there isn't. And even the gospel according to Mark, according to Luke, weren't written by them, right? If you look at, let me show you something from the Bible itself.
Why is he going to the Bible now? How's that going to help Islam's case? Does he think that if he shows some contradictions in the Bible, that makes Islam true? This is the idea. And I think also because they're probably somewhere, as you know, in the US somewhere, they're going to take a chance and think, well, most people are Christian. I think this guy kind of said he didn't believe in anything, but I didn't hear clearly whether that was the case. But they're trying to compare it with the Bible because most Christians are the people who are going to come and challenge them, probably. And so, hey, if we can show something wrong with yours, then that makes ours more likely to be true. Well, no, it doesn't. It just means there might be a problem with mine. It doesn't mean yours is true.
Feel free, whatever. Like, we don't push our religion. We're here to build the bridges. So whatever you want to take, feel free. It's all free.
Yeah, it depends what you mean by push, right? Do you mean you don't push the religion here where you're in the minority? Or do you mean you don't push the religion everywhere else in the world? And if it is being pushed in other countries where you're the majority, are those all bad Muslims? Well, he's definitely not shy
If
to
we look
take a
in
whole
the
bunch.
Bible, this is according to Mark, right? The Gospel according to Mark, 15:34. 15:34, you will find that here, and at the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice saying, Elohe, Elohe, alama, right? Which is translated as, my God, why have you forsaken me? Right?
Okay.
So this is an interesting verse because if Christians tell us that Jesus was sent on earth to be crucified, that was his mission, and he knew it, why would he be telling the Father, why have you forsaken? Then he should have known he was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, you can make the criticism, but do you think that Christians don't have an answer to that? I mean, whether you think it's a good answer or not, do you think that that's like a knockdown that Christians are going to agree with? Look, you can make that, and maybe you and I would agree that that's problematic, but Christians will have an answer. But then I could side with the Christian and look at your book and show that, the nonsense that's in there. So this isn't really helpful to anybody who's thinking critically. And this, you wouldn't bring this up if again, this guy should have been clear whether he's an atheist, because why would you bring this book up, right? So he must think that somehow this book has got some relevance to this particular guy, because you wouldn't bring the Bible to an atheist. We'd just laugh and go, well, it's the same as your book. Why are you showing me two fairy tales?
Well, the question that I ask Muslims who do that is, do you think that because it says something in the Bible and that's why Muslims are allowed to slap their wives?
Sorry, say that again.
I'm saying, if by telling me that there is something wrong in the Bible, does that mean because it says something wrong in the Bible, that means a Muslim can slap his wife?
Yeah, exactly. How's that relevant to Islam? But that's why I say the only reason I can imagine that he's doing this is because he thinks this guy's Christian, or that in some way, undermining the Bible makes the case stronger for Islam or makes it weaker for Christianity. But if you were an atheist, you wouldn't care about this. So I think that's helpful to know. But I wasn't clear what this guy actually said as to what he is.
Crucified, right? And go ahead.
Well, things can happen. I mean, if he was just a man, it doesn't necessarily mean he's prophetic, even though he was a prophet, right?
Okay.
So maybe he didn't know fully the mission before him, that lay before him. Maybe it was revealed in steps, and maybe like a human being, he just simply had to contend with that.
We would agree with you there,
Yeah.
but the problem then gets to be that means he's not God.
Oh, I definitely don't think he was
Okay,
God.
so that's what we're saying.
I'm more
is
Well, the same thing with your prophet, right? He's just a man. There's no reason to think that he heard from any sort of God. He just had voices in his head or whatever the case is. He's simply mistaken. That's the only claim that we need to make. We don't need to go down all the Darren Humza route with all the other options, which, it's not a position that we have to take.
Than anything.
Okay, excellent. So this is the thing. When we see Jesus being called the Son of God, for example, we find many other people being called sons of God in the Old Testament, right? So that would mean that doesn't necessitate him being the physical Son of God, even according to the Gospels. And we see many clear.
Well, that's one interpretation you can have. It piqued his interest, has it? According to this, whoever put this thing up here.
Numeric contradictions, which I'm sure if you're already aware of, if you're not, I can.
Maybe he's not even paying attention. He's just looking at the other stuff while the sheikh rambles away here. Who knows?
Show you a few, right? You're good. So that would mean that this is not the message of Jesus. This is the writings of later men that have contradictory accounts written in a language that it's not in Aramaic, right? It's Koine Greek, and then developed by people like King James and organized in different ways. Certain books are put in, certain are taken out. Even today, if you look at the Catholic Bible, the Ethiopian Bible, the Protestant Bible, even if you look at the Bible that Jehovah's Witnesses have and the King James Version, you see different verses, different chapters. You have the Book of Mormon, you have the books in the Catholic Bible that you don't find. So this is all the work of men. This Quran is the words of Allah. It's not the work.
That wasn't recorded by men. Over times, well after Muhammad died, by people who, some of them had never met him, etc., right? No, that's the word of God. Well, how did you establish that? And now we'll go to some explanation similar to what the Christians will do in their own way.
This is the Prophet Muhammad. This is not the work of Abu Bakr. There's no gospel of Abu Bakr or Umar or Uthman.
But again, you take that Quran and you compare it with, like, say, Yusuf Ali or any of the other ones, and you'd find differences there. What is he going to say then? Well, that's not really, no, this is just an interpretation. But that's the real Quran from Allah to somebody who doesn't know better, even though it's in English, until you show that, hey, these other ones say something different to this. No, well, you need to read it in Arabic. You see how easily they can shift the goalposts if they want to. And
where's the original? They don't have an original.
No.
Where is it? Well, we memorized it. Yeah, but what have you memorized? How do you know what you memorized is the original version? You don't know.
Correct. And they think, even if we granted them the silly idea that that humans have perfectly preserved it memory-wise over 1,400 years, you just need one mistake early on, and then everybody else memorizes that mistake. And you have no way to check back on that. All they think that they want to claim is that it's always been double-checked all the way through. That's just a story you tell your guys. You can't demonstrate that's true. But you can say it, and you can throw in the word science here and there as if that somehow makes it sound better to your ear. It doesn't to any of our ears.
This was revealed, not authored. This was revealed by Allah to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Aren't a lot of these books saying that same message?
Sure, and that part of the message then may have been preserved. But the things we find, like Lot having sex with his daughters, we don't find that in the Quran.
Yeah, that's whack, first of all.
I'm with you
also,
there. There you go. You have a...
Whack.
Exactly.
There's a lot of whack things.
I agree.
Yeah, the thing is, you just haven't read the Quran. Once you read that, you'll find there's quite a lot of whack there too. Yes, that's fair enough. You can call out the Bible, but read the Quran and then come back and say there's no whack there, and then either you haven't read it or you haven't understood it.
In the Bible, though,
right.
I was somewhat supposedly raised Catholic, and at the same time, it's like, this does not make sense through Bible school of 3 years.
You are the man. Look at that right there.
I don't know.
Now, when you read this and it does make sense, then you're ready to go from agnostic to Muslim, and we'll be here for you.
Well,
so he's agnostic. Okay, why did he bring up the Bible then? That was just silly, right? But another reason you could do it is, hey, if you know that or if you suspect that he might have been Christian, then it's another way to go, hey, look, I agree with you. Look at this book. This is silly, right? But my book is special. So get them on your side by agreeing with them, right? This is called an agreement frame. Get somebody on your side, get friendly with them, and then say, hey, I'm on your side. Yeah, I agree. But look here, I've got something special for you. Right? and the person is potentially more likely to be agreeable to that.
See,
We'll see. There's no compulsion. We don't force our religion, right? We're here.
Oh.
You don't see us walking.
Yeah, that's the case at the moment. Let's not look back at history, right? History is not a good lens by which to claim that. If we look over North Africa, Eastern Europe, etc., and everywhere else around there, all the enemies or supposed enemies of Muhammad, there wasn't any compulsion there either, was there? Except if you mean death.
Well, today's Quran has 114 chapters. 106 times it says in the Quran, if you are a non-believer, you will go to hell. Now, there's only 114 chapters, and it says in the Quran 106 times. What does that tell you about the Quran and non-compulsion?
Exactly. And as I think other people have pointed out, right, there's more in the Quran about the disbelievers and what will happen to them and so forth than there is about what the believers ought to do. Isn't that strange for a manual that's supposed to tell you what? Imagine I did a manual on how to drive the car, and most of the manual was on what not to do. At some point, you're going to go, okay, what do I actually need to do to drive this car? So, well, don't drive it into the ditch. Don't drive on the right-hand side of the road. Don't reverse too fast. Okay, what should I do? Should I just reverse all of the don'ts? Why do that? Just tell me what I ought to do, not what I don't need to do.
We're here.
Know that. You don't force your religion that way.
Come,
We appreciate that.
read. If you have questions, we're here to answer questions. And then guidance is from Allah. I pray to Allah that Allah makes us as a means of guidance for you and me.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet
Any other questions?
How do you establish whether your prayer is answered? If he came back and said, then you'd say, oh, look, my prayer is answered. If he came back and said, no, I don't agree. What are you going to say? My prayer is also answered? No, you're going to say, well, hey, Allah does what he wills. So the prayer is in fact completely vacuous. There's no way for you to establish any independent way that your prayer works or doesn't work. And yet it would be so easy to demonstrate where the prayer from Muslims worked. And yet, of course, we don't get that. What do we get instead? Exactly what we would expect. No better than chance. And then you have human psychology is going, yeah. Well, look, it worked. I prayed and, the family member got better. Or I prayed and the cat came home that was lost for a week. And what about all the times when you prayed and none of that happened? Oh, shit. Yeah, I forgot about those.
You have come back.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Have a good one. Do you know what the Islamic basic belief is? What do you know of it?
Okay, I think we're getting to 10 o'clock and we're pretty close to the end there. So I don't know, Stops, we can carry on or we can call it a day.
No, well, this is what I saw. This is the end, and she just walks off and he's just da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I think this is what he calls a Karen who says, I will call the cops. But nothing else happens. I mean, this is clickbait, where he says, woman Karen calls the cops. No, she doesn't. There's nothing there. You can't see anything. It's just.
We'll post the link if somebody wants to go watch the end of it, because we're getting to the end of the show now anyway. So if there isn't anything substantive, I've posted the link in chat there. If there isn't anything substantive for us to comment on, then yeah, we can call it the end. I'm not so interested in the drama side of it. I'm more interested in
exactly.
Is there anything that he's saying that we ought critique? Alrighty.
Oh boy. Okay, guys. Any questions? Anything that is left open? Anything that is. The Sheikh and the Karen. The Sheikh is the Karen. No, I mean, that's not what a Karen is.
But yeah, we've posted a link to Discord. So if you want to come and chat to us there. Hopefully some of us will be there. We'll see how we get on. But I guess let's bring it to the close with the Hadith of the day, sir.
But then I was right in my summary where I said Farooq makes stuff up. Because that is the impression I had after just a couple of seconds watching him.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's given a wonderful fairy story there. He hasn't demonstrated that it's true. But imagine he came onto this show and we had a conversation with him here. But A, he wouldn't get to monologue for ages. B, we'd get right to the point and ask him to demonstrate these sort of things. And woe betide him if he brings up something like, hey, he's gone to the British Library and checked that the moon did split. And then we can show what happens with that sort of story.
And I would put my fist in my mouth and try and keep quiet.
No, we'll just bring the evidence to show that, in fact, that isn't the case. And it's a mythical story that was created at that time. But he'll deny it, of course.
Of course. The Prophet said, indeed, anyone who fasts for one day for Allah's pleasure, Allah will keep his face away from the hellfire for, and then it says, a distance covered by a journey of 70 years. Now, I don't understand that. Because I don't, well, hellfire for 70 years, I understand. But why it would say a distance covered by a journey of 70 years, I don't understand.
Yeah, and
So
what
I don't know.
distance is that?
Is it,
Is that the distance that a human would walk, fly, swim? But is it some other animal would go? I mean, a distance you could stop, you could stay in a place forever, etc. Yeah, I mean that's just again, this is like a vacuous claim. What is a
yeah.
distance covered? And why would you
And
need
now,
to be a distance away from hell anyway? I mean,
but if you if you look at just the contents, they say Allah will, if you just fast for one day for Allah's pleasure. In other words, you say I'm going to skip lunch, all right? Then you're going to keep my face away. What about the rest of my body? Why would it
yeah,
take one day of fasting to do that? Why can't he? He's all merciful. Why does it need fasting?
yeah. Or why do you need his face away, or whatever the case is?
Yeah.
And you either in hell or you aren't, right? It's not a what does it get warmer as you get closer or something like that? You don't want to get too close. Do you start to cook if you get too close? I mean, it's just one of those metaphorical, again, something that doesn't, you've just muted yourself, stop. So I guess you've got a reason. It's just one of those things that, it's one of those like metaphors. It's a deepity. It sounds profound, but when you look at it, you go, this is, as Daniel Dennett says, deepity. It sounds profound, but actually has no content value to it. It's kind of trivial.
Well, he creates a hell, creates a person he knows is going to go to hell, and then gives him a way to like a stay out of hell free card. Just fast one day and you're good to go.
Yeah.
For,
So again, if you want to join
okay.
us on Discord, there it is. Normally Discord is quiet except on a Friday evening. Some people get together and we have a chat afterwards. That's not recorded. It's not live. So if you've got any questions or you want to join us and come and say hi, hopefully Stops and I, or both of us, at least one of us or both of us, will be there for a little while. And certainly some of our colleagues and friends will be there. So pop over and join us on the show, on Discord after the show.
Guys, thank you very much. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for some of your opinions, your views, and suggestions. Brilliant stuff. And if nothing else happens, inshallah, we will see you next Friday. Same place, same space, same time, same everything. So what we're going to do is say goodnight and see you on Discord or next Friday. Bye-bye.
Good night.